At a symposium for Marin County school leaders in May 2024, ScreenSense asked Andrew Davis, the head of school at Mount Tamalpais School, to share the digital well-being strategy and guidelines for families that he implemented at his K-8 school in fall of 2023. The following is a video recording of his presentation. ScreenSense will be hosting more events like this for educators in the future. We are a local nonprofit based in Mill Valley, California, whose mission is to support digital well-being in our homes and schools. Please reach out with questions or comments via our website at www.screensense.org. And now, here's Andrew Davis.
So, a little bit about myself. Yes, I'm the head of Mount Tam School. We're here in Mill Valley, kindergarten through 8th grade, about 260 students. Previous to that, I was at Crystal Springs Upland School, which is a grade 6 through 12 school down on the peninsula. And I ran our middle school, and I also taught in the high school. So kind of for the past 15 years, I have had a front row seat to the pendulum that has swung, as Dabney was talking about, of like, it's here to stay, let's embrace, let's use technology, to the, oh my gosh, it is everywhere all the time. I've been there, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. And I am also a parent. I have a 5th grader and a 3rd grader, and so the cynical, maybe true, I swear this is not the true motivation, was, how can I get everybody around me to agree to screen rules so that my own kid will have to follow the screen rules? So yes, it does happen to be that I have a 5th grader and a 3rd grader. So that's a little bit about me. This bottom right-hand corner of this mind map says partnership. I'm truly here in the spirit of partnership. We have not solved digital well-being at Mount Tam School. What we've done is we've taken what is for us a new step. We took it this year. I want to share what that step was and how it's gone. And I'll return to that partnership part, because as I mentioned to a few folks as we were chatting beforehand, the more of us who are getting people to do this, the better. Because it would be really nice if Mount Tam kids said, oh, my school says that we're not allowed to text after 8 p.m. If those kids go, I know, my school too, right? So it would be lovely if it wasn't just me. I mean, especially as my kids. So, why did we take a step to improve digital well-being? First reason is the pendulum swing that I've experienced as an educator. So about 15 years ago, I was the head of middle school at Crystal, and we would love to go one-to-one iPads at our middle school. We can get rid of the binder, right? Like parents all hated the binders and they hated the backpacks. We will get rid of the binder. And shortly thereafter, we launched a one-to-one iPad program. And it was really exciting. And there were some amazing things that happened, some beautiful technology integration. And a few years in, at recess, I came out of my office and I saw a whole bunch of kids sitting on the floor looking at their iPads. And my wife can attest to this. I'm not very good at admitting that I was wrong. But there was a moment when I was like, ooh, I think I might have done the wrong thing. They were all just sitting there looking at their iPads. A few months later, I dealt with just a really painful discipline incident where a middle school student had copied or had photoshopped the face of a middle school girl onto the image of the Michelin Man and put it out on this new app that everybody had called Instagram. And the hurt that he caused, that previously would have been a snide remark that was mean, that spread so quickly, the hurt that it caused for that student, for that boy who just didn't really get the scale of impact that he would have, and for the communities we grappled with, are we doing enough discipline? You know, like, what is the fundamental problem? Like, I saw that hurt begin to happen. And I don't know about you, but I regularly think I am so grateful that I went through middle school without social media. I was not cool. Like, I was definitively not a cool 7th and 8th grader. Like, I maybe was cool, like, junior, senior year in high school. I don't think I was even cool then. But, like, I definitely was not cool in 7th and 8th grade. And on Friday nights, I spent pretty much every Friday night watching TGIF. It was on, like, ABC or NBC. And it was a lineup of shows, right? Like, there was Cousin Balky, there was Alf, and, like, there was, like, the girl who would snap her fingers and freeze time or something like this. And I loved it. Like, that was Friday night, like me and TGIF. And I'm sure that all the cool kids, and I still remember their names, I will not out them because one of you probably, like, knows them. I'm sure all the cool kids were hanging out at someone's house. And because we didn't have Instagram, because we didn't have group chat, because we didn't have all, I didn't know. I was really happy. And I probably would have been bummed had I known that the kids who I played football with out at recess were all hanging out and I hadn't been invited. So over that 15 years, exactly as Daphne was talking about, I saw that swing, and I just saw, as we've all read, the increasing mental distress that has happened. So that was one reason that I said that we needed to take a step. The second step is, of course, the national attention that this has been getting. And if I had a nickel for every time Jonathan Hates and Phone-Based Childhood Now was sent to me, I could retire right now, and every article like it that has come before, right? Article upon article, all the stats that Daphne was citing, like, yeah, we know it. We've known it for a while, right? And just people write really compelling articles about it that all get sent around. And then I've also known it myself. It was about 2 years ago that I was walking across campus. I was going from my office to go over and see a teacher, and without even knowing it, I pull out my phone and I'm looking at Instagram. And I looked and I was like, what am I doing? Like, I didn't even intend to do that. It was just default in me. And it was 2 years ago, so I was like, I'm 44. I have like a decent prefrontal cortex, and I cannot help myself. How do these kids stand a chance? And every single adult that I talk to feels like we are wrestling with our relationship with technology, and we have fully formed brains. And if you know an adult who doesn't think that they have a problem, ask their kids. And their kids will tell you, oh my God, my parents, like fill in the blank, right? Like, we know it ourselves. And ultimately, what was the final catalyst that made me say, we need to take a step to improve digital well-being, was when the Surgeon General's advisory on teen mental health and social media came out last year. Long white paper, I'd love to tell you that I read the whole thing. I didn't really read the whole thing. But it was the fact that the Surgeon General, the person who I've seen and read a lot of things that he has written and talked about and really bought into, if he's issuing an advisory, that means that there is a significant public health crisis that requires immediate awareness and action. I was like, okay, this is no longer just another article in the Atlantic or in the Washington Post or in the New Yorker, right? Like, this is a public official using just a few of the cards that he gets to play to draw our attention, and this is saying that this needs immediate action. And it must have also not been during the month of May, because I was like, we can do something about this. So we decided to do something. And we decided to ground the work. I decided to ground the work in schools. So why anchor digital well-being work in schools? Hopefully we all agree that schools are places of learning. Like, we want kids to learn, right? And I think we all now understand, I think we now have families bought in, that social emotional wellness is key to learning, right? For a long time we've known that when a second grader comes in from recess, I watched it happen happened today, and there was an injustice in the flag football game. Like, there's no chance that they're going to learn the vocabulary. There's no chance that they're going to do that, right? Because that is that injustice. When that middle school girl comes in to math after lunch, and it's y equals mx plus b day in algebra, that's kind of an important day, people, right? And all she can think about is, Serena didn't sit with me at lunchtime. Serena always sits with me at lunchtime, right? Like, we now, as educators, got that social emotional learning and social emotional well-being is the on-ramp to academic success. We all get that, like, social emotional learning is now, like, actually part of what we do, right? What we've seen is that the biggest pothole accident on the on-ramp is this, right? Because it's not just the injustice out during the tagging, it's not just who didn't sit with you at lunch, it is nonstop buzzing in your pocket that is underwriting, that's questioning your social emotional well-being. And likes, comments, texts, all these 24/7 disruptions that provide dopamine hits, those are so much more interesting than mitochondria that Tony's trying to teach you about in 7th grade, right? So why should we ground this in schools? Because it's impacting academics, whether we like it or not. The second reason that I think we need to ground this in schools is that we, schools, I think are really the sole remaining community anchor. Back in the day, I'm not sure when that day was, but back in the day, norms, values were set by a number of forces. One was extended family, right? You had grandparents, you had aunts and uncles, you had that older cousin who said, dude, that's not what we do, right? And the younger people looked up to those older people and followed them. We also had religious institutions, whether it was churches, synagogues, places of worship that had youth groups, and you needed that rabbi to connect with the teens and say, hey guys, this is what we do here. Because in both of these cases, I'm sure parents were saying that then, kind of like we as parents are now telling what our kids should be doing with tech. But it is the nature of adolescence to push back on their parents. Whenever parents come to me frustrated, my kid's not listening to me, they think that whatever I say is wrong. I'm like, it's healthy, because they're trying to separate from you. And if you don't want them living in your basement, let them separate, right? So if they're not going to listen to mom and dad, who are they going to listen to? It used to be elders. It used to be religious leaders, scout leaders, kind of these deep community organizations with whom families had long-standing relationships. Well, in our world now, those anchors aren't really there. Many of us are raising our kids without that deep extended family. Many of us are raising our kids without those other institutions that are providing norms and moral grounding. And increasingly, at least what I find, is families are looking to us as schools to step in and do that role. So digital well-being is impacting academics, no doubt. And then there's a leadership vacuum. No one else is stepping up. So that's why I think schools are the place that we need to step in. So what did we do at Mount Tampa? The first thing I did is I grounded this work in our strategic plan. So we, as a school, have a 5-year strategic plan centered around 4 habits of excellence. One of our habits is the habit of collective wellness and belonging. And so I tied that in with permission of the board. I added a new strategic priority. So each habit of excellence had 3 strategic priorities. Now one of them, the habit of collective wellness and belonging, has a 4th strategic priority, which is to help students and families create a healthy, intentional, and productive relationship with technology. So why ground it in the strategic plan? One, so that I have to do it. Because the board is like, what did you accomplish in terms of the strategic plan this year? And two, so that if there was pushback, why are you doing this, Andrew? I could point to the strategic plan. Spoiler alert, there was zero pushback. And I will come kind of dive into that more. So now it's in. I have to do it. What are we going to do? There are three elements. I'm going to quickly highlight them and dive into the home digital wellbeing guidelines. So the first thing that we've started in on, and frankly I want us to do more of, is really auditing our technology use at school. To make sure that when we're giving kids devices at school, that our technology use in the classroom is healthy, productive, and intentional. Because if we at school are not doing it right, then we gotta be careful about telling families how to do it. The second thing that we did is we tripled down on digital well-being education for students and families. So every year we had done something. We had been working for a number of years with a few different organizations to come in and do a workshop for kids. Every couple of years we would have a parent speaker. This year we did 3 digital well-being weeks. So weeks where we really focused on this, and each one was tied to a parent education element. So for example, the first one that we did in the fall, we had all of our 3rd through 5th graders come one evening with a parent or guardian and watch Screenagers, and then most importantly, have a discussion afterwards. And then the next night, we watched Screenagers with our whole 6th through 8th grade community and had a discussion afterwards. Then most recently, we invited parents and guardians to come back and watch Screenagers the next chapter, which is about mental health in screens. And this coming Friday is our Mental Health Awareness Day at school, and our 6th through 8th graders are going to be watching that movie and talking about it. So we really doubled down on talking about it at school. What felt like the riskiest step for us, and really the newest thing that we had done, was we wrote home digital well-being guidelines. And that's the part that I'm going to share some more about. Our thesis was that parents want a community norm that they can all gather around, and no one's providing that community norm. So our goal was to write a set of guidelines that everybody could buy into, and I'll double click on that more in a little bit. Something that parents could really anchor around for their family, and something that parents could use to blame school. Why are you making us do this? Well, school makes us, right? So that was kind of the idea. And what we came up with, I think you have a paper copy of, is this. And you don't really need to read every single one, but you'll see K2 through 6-8, we lay out tech device storage, aka tech bedtime. When do all devices go away? Group texting and group gaming from a family or personal device. We knew that kids were in 4th grade on group text, and they were flying in at 10, 11, 12 at night. And so we said, group texting, strongly discouraged. K2, it's discouraged. No messaging group gaming after 7 p.m., 8 p.m., 9 p.m. Now we talk about social media apps and tech platforms, and are really saying you should actually follow the agreement that you're signing up to when your kid signs up for it, and not let them get an account before they're old enough to have an account. And when you do use a family technology contract on phones, we encourage families to wait until 8th grade. And we actually say the summer before 8th grade so that they can get their yayas out during the summer, rather than starting 8th grade fall, which is a pretty important academic semester with like this new device. So let them have it during the summer if they're going to get it. And then we've given families a lot of resources and ideas about how to not have a phone from kindergarten through 7th grade, whether it's a family phone, whether it's one of the watches, et cetera, et cetera. And finally, we talk about phone use and really encouraging people to have screen-free carpools, things like that. So we put that out there. One of the big things that we grappled with over the summer in putting this together was how specific to be. Just how granular do we get? And what we, a few guiding principles were, we need a critical mass. If we made it too restrictive, parents would be like, yeah, that's not happening, right? And then we wouldn't get enough people. And all the kids would be like, Mom, no one follows those rules. Like, come on, really? No one does it, right? And then the other thing that I didn't want is for our school to be the ongoing referee of every single new app and platform that came out. So we try to kind of stay high level enough. And I will say that there has been a desire. Can you please tell us, it's YouTube Kids only versus YouTube? Or these YouTubers are good, these ones aren't, right? I'm like, sorry, we're just not gonna go there for you. Parenting still kind of stinks. It's really hard. You still have to say that, and you still have to say, I don't care that they watch that. And the other thing that we're particularly mindful of is being equity-minded and not being too judging. There are plenty of families in our school community, in all school communities, that for very valid reasons rely on screens for childcare. And we didn't want to say, you should only let kids look at a screen for this long, so that a family feels like, wow, we are being judged. So really trying to be mindful of that also in terms of creating these. In terms of rollout, we sent this out in late summer as families were coming back, with the idea that for most families, as the school year starts, summer is coming to a close, there's lots of resetting the expectations. Bedtimes need to shift. Wake-up times need to shift. Sports practices are starting, right? So starting the school year is a great time to say, let's rethink how we're using our phones. Let's get back to those rules about screen time, right? So we sent it out ahead of time so that families were ready. We gave a lot of the why. Why are we doing this? Linked to articles. We gave families permission to blame school. And we rolled it out K-8, but in reality, we rolled it out, or kind of, the way it played out is more we rolled it out K-6. A lot of our 7th and 8th grade families said, where was this 2 years ago? The ship has sailed. There's no way that we can do this. And I was like, yeah, sorry, well, my kid's in 5th grade, and I just wanted to get this nailed. But so just the reality is, it's never going to be successful immediately, right? And our head of middle school shared with me at our recent middle school dance, there are only 2 out of about 36 6th graders that have a phone. And they're all at the dance, having a great time. Those 2 did not get out their phones. And the 6th graders came to the head of middle school and said, next year, we are going to make it so that no phones are allowed at the dance. It was so lame because the 7th and 8th graders were just looking at their phones. And also, I don't want to dance because then they're going to film me and that's really embarrassing, right? So I'm just this is slowly going to roll up with time. And then we followed it up really quickly with that first digital well-being week. So a few lessons learned. I've received 0 pushback. I'm sure there are some families that are thinking yep, that's never going to happen, I'm too busy, and yeah, great, But their parents have been so grateful. Families have been so grateful for this. And even if they don't follow it to the T, it's that anchor for family communication. There has been a desire for us to be more granular, and I've resisted that for all the reasons that I talked about. I want to keep as many people on board as possible. I know that we're going to have to relaunch it each year. So as we get to mid-August, reminding families, here's that link to that technology contract again, right? This is that chance, because we all go off the rails during summer, like it's time to come back, it's time to reset on this. And it is a multi-year rollout. And as I think about those guidelines, what are the ones that I wish we could do even more with, and this is where I think collectively we can, is around social media. Because while the phone is really helpful for coordination and things like that, as the kids are going off to sports teams and drama groups and summer camp, they all want to stay connected, they all want to be relevant, and if we can have more together, the better. And that's the last thing I want to share is, this is not proprietary. I've had a few people reach out saying, can we use those same guidelines? I'm like, absolutely, I'll send you the digital file, right? Like, use it. Because it is so much better if Mount Tam kids feel like, oh, well, this is just what all kids do, not what, like, my lame school does, right? So I really think the more of us that can be doing this together, the better. So we took a step. We're going to keep taking it. We would love others to take the step. And I think the more work that we do together, the greater the impact that we